Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Raising Cane studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in, Hunt Palmer, coming to you from the Raising Cane studio downtown in the capital city on this Football Friday. That does mean we're brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp. Got Jordan Kitchens and Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. Fired up, you were hanging out with us. Hopefully that work week is in the rearview mirror for you. If that's the case, congrats. If it's not, we'll get you to the finish line here on this Football Friday. Same list of things we do every single week. Preston Guy, 15 minutes from now, we'll set the scene for the NFL Sunday to come. Some really good action on the gridiron on Sunday. There's some good action on the gridiron on Saturday as well. Really good slate if you're an LSU fan and the Tigers win at 11 o'clock in the morning, because there's some good stuff later on in the afternoon, especially in the SEC. We'll pick those against the spread coming up at the top of hour number 2. Also got Take It or Leave It coming up as pick for Saints and Bears, pick for LSU and Vanderbilt. We're loaded for the next 2 hours. So if you were maybe in transit to Nashville to go watch the Tigers, thanks for locking us in. If you're still at work, thanks for locking us in. If you're just driving around on a gorgeous fall Saturday, thanks for being here. Let's crank it up the way we do every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's Opening Drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
LSU and Vanderbilt is where we're going to start today. And if y'all heard me talk this week, you understand where I'm coming from on this Vanderbilt team. I called their statistics fraudulent earlier this week, and I stand by that. That does not mean, and I've said so in the segment, that I think Vanderbilt is fraudulent. I don't think they are. I think Vanderbilt's a really solid SEC football team. I stopped short of good, certainly stopped short of great. They're playing against the Vanderbilt expectation, and LSU is playing against the LSU expectation, which is why you've got teams in fairly similar situations who have beat up on some lesser teams that have a loss against what I perceive to be a pretty good SEC team. And people were giving toasts and cheers to Vanderbilt, and people were saying that LSU needs to fire everybody associated with the program. It's because I've talked about all fall that LSU's playing against a championship curve. Vanderbilt's not playing on a championship curve. They're playing on the Vanderbilt curve, which means you win 3 or 4 SEC games, you've really done something. But I think when you take those two things together and you take an LSU team that's struggling relative to its expectation and a Vanderbilt team that's exceeding what we expect out of them, you find kind of a match in the middle, which is why I think Vegas has had this thing between 1.5 and 2.5 all week, and why you're going to get picks on both sides of the ledger this week in this game. And I think that makes a lot of sense. I talked at length about the Vanderbilt offense yesterday and about what they're trying to do and how they establish things. And I want to talk about the Vanderbilt defense today. You know, Vanderbilt's defense statistically is doing a very nice job. Their offense makes sure that they're not on the field very often. Their head coach is a great defensive mind. They've done an excellent job rushing off the edge and creating pressures. If you look at where they stand in the Southeastern Conference when it comes to getting back there and sacking the quarterback, they're 4th. They've got 18 of them. They average 3 a game, and that's very solid work. That's the strength of their team. You look at what they do off the edge. Capers is really tough. He's got 4.5 sacks. Wood has 2 sacks. Like they've got some guys that can give you some issues on the edge. And we know that LSU has struggled at right tackle, and Tyree Adams at left tackle has been okay. That's what Vanderbilt does best. What I was looking at specifically is Vanderbilt's rushing defense, because I think that's relevant with LSU trying to find something on the ground. And you look at the run defense numbers, and Vanderbilt's 5th in the SEC in terms of yards per game in rushing defense. They're 6th when it comes to yards per carry. When you look at rushing touchdowns allowed, Vanderbilt is 3rd in the league. Like, those numbers are very, very good. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a team that is doing a pretty good job of stopping the run. And then I look at what Alabama did in that game, and I really prioritize what Alabama did against Vanderbilt as opposed to South Carolina or Virginia Tech or Charleston Southern or Utah State. Like, I want to see what Bama did. And Bama ran it 38 times in that game for 146 yards and a touchdown. It was not a prolific effort on the ground by the Tide, who I think run it better than LSU. It was a good effort. I don't think it was a great effort. I look at Jam Miller when he's healthy. He's a solid back in the SEC. And I look at their offensive line, and it's been Alabama's offensive line's been better than LSU's for sure. So I'm interested in how effective LSU can be on the ground, because as we look at these baby steps, the baby steps have to come for this group to progress, because you're not anticipating, or at least I'm not, LSU to become this juggernaut on the ground overnight. And I'm not going to sit here and suggest that running the ball in South Carolina proves a significant point. I think it's a step in the right direction. I'm certainly glad they ran it for 160 on South Carolina instead of the 50 they ran against Ole Miss for. Like, that's good. But, okay, where can you go from there? Prove it. And I think LSU's got a chance to run the ball early in this game, and I haven't said that all year. I think they have a chance to run the ball early in this game because I think Clark Lee and Vanderbilt are going to sit back a little bit to play coverage. I think they probably have to. When you consider Aaron Anderson back, which we expect on Saturday, and you consider what Trey'Dez Green showed last week, that's two guys who are problem causers. And I would contend that the speed of Barryon Brown and Chris Hilton, when they're on the field, is a problem causer for Vanderbilt. And this goes back to the Alabama team that threw for 340 on him. And I think Clark Lee probably looks at this and goes, okay, let's take away their fastball first and see if they can drop the breaking ball in for a strike first. So I'm going to take away the best I can Anderson, Green, Hilton, Brown first. And if I can win with 5 up front, like some teams have done, Ole Miss certainly did it 3 weeks ago, as it were, then I've got something now. And I think that's probably where Vanderbilt starts. And if you're LSU, you've got to try and go, okay, we're going to run some straight ahead stuff. You want to do that with Juwan Johnson out of the Wildcat? Great. You want to do that with Malachi Lane back there with him as a fullback? Great. You want to put Jack Pyburn in there for a snap or two? Great. You want to hand the ball to Xavion Thomas motioning out of the backfield? Great. You just want to give it to Caden Durham 14 times in the first half? Great. I'm okay with any of that. I don't have something in my mind that goes, hey, this is the way you have to do it. You just got to get it done one way or another. And if LSU finds some early success on the ground, which they did some different things, this is one of those deals. I don't have any pride at all here on this radio station. I trust Flynn and Hester to break down tape in the running game before I do anything. And they're suggesting that last week was the most creative we've seen LSU. We saw pulling guards. We saw some power. We saw some wrinkles. I can tell personnel. I can tell you that Juwan Johnson's out there. I can tell you that Jack Pyburn or Malachi Lane's out there. I'm not as good at diagnosing what exactly they're trying to accomplish at the line of scrimmage with each individual blocker. Flynn and Hester can do it. They're suggesting last week, step of progress after the bye with Durham healthy. I want to see more of that in the first half. And if you see a first half where LSU's able to run for 4 yards on first down, LSU's able to convert 3rd and 2 on the ground, LSU gets into the red zone and does run the ball successfully. If you see that, LSU might win this game by a couple scores, because I do not think that Vanderbilt can run with LSU out on the perimeter, and I think the quarterback is ready to go this week. I liked what I heard from Garrett Nussmeier on Tuesday. I think there's a quiet confidence there. But there is a but. If you can't, and those windows get real tight, and you can't run the ball, and you're constantly in 2nd and 11 and 2nd and 10, and you're counting on Nussmeier time and time and time again to win down the field with his arm in tight windows, because there's so many defenders out there, that's when the Vanderbilt pass rush can, and I believe will, get to you. I don't trust LSU's tackles right now. They blocked okay, but Vanderbilt's got a couple edge guys that can win. And if Vanderbilt knows that LSU's throwing the ball, that's when Clark Lee can kind of dial it up and they can get after it. Bama did enough on the ground against Vanderbilt, running for 146, to give Ty Simpson pockets, and he went nuts on that secondary. Nuts on that secondary. And Nussmeier can do that. I'm ready to proclaim that. But that needs to be the second phase of this. I think you'll know pretty early where LSU sits offensively. Because I don't think this is an X's and O's thing to an extent. I think there's a Jimmy's and Joe's element to this. Keep in mind, goes back to the original point of the segment. We threw bouquets all over the place on Vanderbilt last year. They went 7-6. That's what you're playing on Saturday. You're playing a 7-6 program. You're playing maybe a program that goes 8-4 in the regular season, probably 7-5. That's what you're playing tomorrow. But I am not in a position to sit here and look down my nose at Vanderbilt when LSU's offense has produced to the way it has produced to this point in the schedule. Because I promise you, if you can't run the ball tomorrow and all of a sudden you're behind the chains and you score 17 or 20 points in this game like you did against Clemson, like you did against Florida, like you did against South Carolina, you'll lose. I feel convicted in that. You're going to have to do something on the offensive side. And guess what? What you did last week against South Carolina, against what I think is probably comparable personnel, that's enough with 2 or 3 cleaner plays in the red zone. That's enough. Doesn't have to be worlds different, but it has to start with a little bit of ground game. And I'm telling you this, you can say, well, that's such an obvious thing to say. We've been saying, I have not said that all year. I told you when they went to Oxford 2 weeks ago, I said they will not run the ball. That environment, that defense, that coordinator, I have no trust they can run it. I do not sit here and say that on this Football Friday. I say I think there is a chance LSU can run the ball. If they don't, trouble. Because I think Vanderbilt will do some things offensively to bleed the clock, keep things close, and, potentially beat you late. I'll give you my pick on it at the end of the show. We got more to break down. I want to flip sides of the ball once again later on in the show, and we'll talk about it a little bit more with Preston, guys, as we move forward. We got our NFL picks, NFL schedule to lay out, and got our SEC picks against the spread coming as well. We're brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Got a watch party, lunchtime tomorrow. Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp, happy to feed your whole crew, no matter what size that is, for your watch party here in Baton Rouge. They're on Government between Foster and Jefferson. Check them out online, corksfishandshrimp.com. When we come back, Preston Guy from Tiger Bait next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. If you've got a bathroom that was designed in the 90s, very early 2000s, a lot of times you'll have those big jacuzzis in the stand-up shower, and if things are starting to malfunction a little bit or just aren't looking the way you'd like them to look, you'd like to modernize it. This is something David and his team do all the time. They'll take that standing shower and they'll take that shower out, put in a linen closet right there. You can have an open one or a door that shuts there. That's perfect size for that. And then you take that big jacuzzi tub you may never sit in, and then turn that space into a walk-in shower. It just transforms the look of your bathroom. If you're having trouble visualizing that, well, go to onebathandclosets.com. There are pictures of their great work. You can see what that'll look like, and it can transform your bathroom as well. Have that sit down, that free consultation with David Duvall, and he'll tell you what they can do. You can give him ideas, and y'all can customize something exactly to your specifications. If you're looking for financing, they've got it. Look at 0% for 18 months. If you qualify. It's One Bath and Closets. Find everything they got online at onebathandclosets.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Chugging along here on this beautiful Friday in the capital city. LSU and Vanderbilt tomorrow, 11 o'clock. It's the scheduled kickoff time, 11:05 officially when Boot meets ball at Memorial Stadium, newly refurbished Memorial Stadium. Interested to get a report from those who travel up there. Preston Guy with us, TigerBait.com, joins us on Fridays talking football. Preston, how are you, sir?
Fine. How's it going?
It's going well. What do you think of the offense against South Carolina? Are you in the camp that they need to score more than 20? Or are you more in the camp that they move the ball pretty well?
I mean, I don't know that those are mutually exclusive. Both. No, they definitely need to score more than 20. But that being said, I mean, it was their best offensive output of the year. You know, you had 420 yards. You ran the ball respectably. You had 3 big explosive runs. And he passed the ball well. Nussmeier looked the best he's looked all year in terms of throwing the ball more than 15 yards. It was a lot of it's just 3 very frustrating turnovers. What stood out to me is all 3 of those turnovers came on drives where they were moving the ball 6 or more plays, 30 or more yards, right? I think the average was 9 plays, 58 yards, something like that they had those turnovers on, including 2 on the 1-yard line effectively. So, I mean, you got to clean those turnovers up. But the way I look at it is, how many plays did you need to improve the outcome on against Ole Miss to have a good offensive output versus how many plays would you have to improve against South Carolina? And arguably, you could fix those 3 turnovers, and that's a blowout.
How do you feel about Nussmeier right now, big picture?
Yeah, I'm hoping he can continue to improve. Obviously, 2 dumb interceptions that he had. One was just inaccuracy, and one was just a boneheaded decision that we've seen a little bit too much out of him. I do feel better about his health and his ability to make throws you need. I don't think that if he gives you what he gave you against South Carolina, you need to necessarily turn to the backup. That is how I felt against Ole Miss. But I think he gives you your best chance to win games, and you just got to hope that he continues to improve and physically is feeling where he felt in 2024 moving forward.
Did you see the strides in the running game? Do you have any confidence that could be a step in the right direction moving forward, or is that just bad South Carolina?
Well, I don't think South Carolina is all that bad against the run. That was the thing is, they were a respectable defense, obviously on offense. They are what they are this year. But Dylan Stewart was out there, and he was, he was giving your right tackle, Weston Davis. He was giving them the business all game long, unfortunately. But, 0 sacks, and they held their own. And I think that they showed a bit more power elements. They had pulling guards this game. They actually had a fullback. They had the Piper and fullback play, although it didn't go for 51 this time. So their average is down dramatically. But all that being said, I think that they invested more into a traditional running game, and I think we saw that. I think if you get the running game you get this weekend consistently, I think you're going to win some games this year. Now, you do, especially if you clean up the turnovers that came with it.
Do you think moving forward that Aaron Anderson and Trey'Dez Green will lead LSU in targets?
I think Trey'Dez Green has definitely made a name for himself where he's going to earn it, whereas I think early on this season, there was just too many mouths to feed. And with a lot of mouths to feed, there's a lot of chemistry to be built, and I think that they're having trouble determining who gets top targets, especially even within his own position group. He's struggling with targets with Bauer Sharp. So I think that they've just been trying to do a little too much, and it's just been a little inconsistency. In the first 3 games, Chris Hilton got 4 targets. So this game, it seems like with these deep balls, just there's always something going wrong. And in this game, you finally get it to him in stride. He's open, good blocking, good throw, and he just plain drops it, So, I think that I would like to see some more, consolidation of the mouths you're trying to feed and focus on. I think Trey'Dez Green has earned that. I think Aaron Anderson has certainly earned that. I mean, you probably got room for consistently guys getting 5+ targets, probably 1 or 2 more guys on top of that to get 5+ targets. That's where you start to have to make some decisions.
If I said LSU was going to score exactly 24 points tomorrow, how would you feel about that?
I think that'd be very frustrating, but it's probably enough to win the football game.
You think it would be enough to win?
Yeah, I do. I think LSU's defense probably holds them something in the neighborhood of 17 points or so.
Okay. Well, how many do you think LSU's going to score tomorrow?
About 24. Yeah.
Okay. So you're looking for a frustrating afternoon in Nashville.
Again.
All right.
Yeah, I do think LSU wins. The only thing is the team on paper. I looked at it, and the first thing I said was LSU minus 6.5. That's how I feel in this spot. In Vegas opened with LSU minus 3.5, but apparently so much money got thrown. It's now Vanderbilt minus 2.5, which is just mind blowing to me. And that scares me in a bad kind of way because Vegas is begging you to take LSU money line, meaning they kind of know something, and that means we don't know something. So that is my one big pause for hesitation.
Why is it mind-blowing to you that Vanderbilt would be favored?
I mean, well, it's Vanderbilt, you know what I mean? Right. And look, this is certainly their best team in 70 years or whatever, and quality football team. I like what Diego Pavia is doing. The talent across the board, LSU probably has an advantage in many positions. Vanderbilt did get blown out by Alabama, and LSU's defense is still what it is. And the fact that LSU's offense was starting to show some positive progress, all that led me to think that LSU should be a touchdown favorite. And I'm still going to stick with that for my pick, but I'd be lying if I say that money, that minus 2.5 isn't giving me a lot of hesitation.
How about the injuries on LSU's front seven with Weeks, Relaford, Butler? Like, how does that, Gooden too?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Yeah, well, first off, Relaford's been out for a while, and they seem to be doing all right. Dylan Carpenter is taking some good snaps there, and you had Patrick Payton. So your defensive end spot, that one doesn't really worry me because I really think you can go 6 deep with quality guys there, right? Now, you'd like to keep them a little fresh and rotate them in and out. What gives me more concern is Bernard Gooden, who has just been an absolute stud anchor of this team so far, but you should be okay. Problem is both those positions, you're getting to the point where it's like, if you get much more thinner, you're losing some quality reps for sure. You're going to have to put some guys who maybe there's going to be some drop-off in production, okay? And what gives me even more concerned than that is Weeks being listed as questionable and walking around with a boot this week. He'll probably play, but will he be 100%?
Yeah, the bone bruise is concerning. It sounds like that's generally something that sidelines folks for a couple of weeks. We'll see if Witt tries to give it a go on Saturday. What are your other impressions of this Vanderbilt team with Pavia and kind of the option attack and the deliberate pace that they play with? We saw them in Tiger Stadium last year. Like, how do you feel LSU matches up?
Yeah, I think that it's a scrappy team. The thing is, Diego Pavia is also doing a lot better passing this year than he was a year ago. So that's more of a dynamic, harder to stop element, whereas last year they were very, very scrappy in their offense. So it still has a lot of scrap to it, that just toughness, that you have to play disciplined ball, all the things you were mentioning just there. But overall, I mean, let's say I've been seeing a lot of foolish memes comparing them to 2019 LSU team on the internet this week, which is just levels of madness I don't even care to address. But it's not like you're facing this dynamic vertical passing attack threat out there, which, it tends to be a little harder to stop because you eventually got to put someone on a dynamic receiver and stop them. Whereas if you just play your disciplined assignment ball and you can stop the short game, this Vanderbilt offense will start to look very clunky.
Yeah, I mean, they're good at what they do, but that's really their only pitch. They want to go slow. They want to run the ball. They want to control the clock and convert short third downs. If you can put them behind the sticks, they generally will struggle. So sounds like you think that LSU's in good shape to win tomorrow. If they do so, I mean, it kind of sets up next Saturday at home at night with A&M, and kind of all your goals are right there on the table. I realize there's been a lot of negativity around the program, around the city, around the message boards and the internet, but you're close to having everything right in front of you.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is clearly a pivotal point in this season where things can go down real bad or they can go up real quickly. I mean, you beat Vanderbilt, you got everything on the table, and basically you have to split Bama and Texas A&M. Of course, you have to beat Oklahoma, but I would say that that's an easier task than the two I just mentioned. You're probably going to have to pull an upset. But if you win this, you're in good shape. If you lose this game, however, that's a bad omen. I mean, you might be staring at 7-5 square in the face if you lose this game. So I think there's a lot of pressure. In fact, I would argue the thought that came to mind, if you lose this game, could it potentially be a spot where you're looking at, well, this is where things went wrong for this era? That's the kind of thoughts you begin to have. So I would argue a lot of pressure to not lose this game.
I kind of said the same thing last week at home against South Carolina, and I think it does prove true again this weekend on the road in Nashville. He's Preston Guy, TigerBait.com, with us on Fridays. Thanks, man.
I'll talk to you soon.
Sure will. Check out all his stuff over there at TigerBait.com. Friday show is brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. We will step aside, take a timeout, and when we come back, we'll set you up for the NFL Sunday slate. And got some, I found enlightening numbers about where opposing teams are throwing against LSU. We'll get to those with the NFL slate next.
The Hunt Palmer Show. You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Corks, Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp.
Feels like a great day for a big shrimp po' boy, right? If you're looking for a po' boy in the Baton Rouge area, Corks, where you need to check out just a full overstuffed shrimp po' boy, fully dressed, got the crispy shoestring fries. It's good stuff. If you're looking for a po' boy in Baton Rouge, highly suggest you check out Corks. I can make a catfish one, and I like a catfish po' boy. I'm not here to disparage the catfish po' boy. I'm just here to elevate the shrimp po' boy. That's where the money is made. That's where my bread is buttered, quite literally. And so I love a shrimp po' boy, and Corks has a great one. So go check them out. Government between Foster and Jefferson. They bring you our Football Friday shows every single week. Another thing we do every Friday. Get you ready for NFL on Sunday. Let's do it. All right, Tier 4. This is the worst action of NFL Sunday, and there are a couple of clunkers. Dolphins at the Browns. Yeesh. The Dolphins have been outgained by 602 yards this year. It has been a rough go and feels like the end is near for that coaching staff. But the Browns don't ever score. Can their offense do anything in this game against a Dolphins defense that is 29th in the NFL in terms of points per game allowed? I have my doubts when it comes to the Browns on offense. That's going to be some ugly football in Cleveland. Panthers at the Jets. That's also just not great. However, the Panthers are looking for their first 3-game winning streak since 2021. That'd be a nice, impressive accomplishment. And they're playing a winless team. They could get it. Garrett Wilson for the Jets, not going to play, but you're probably not going to watch. So we'll move on to tier number 3. The Patriots are at the Titans. Kind of not a welcome back for Mike Vrabel, as we talked about earlier this week. The Patriots are on the road for the 3rd straight week. They're 2-0 so far on that 3 straight road game slate. Of course, one of those was in New Orleans. The Titans are 0-10 against the spread in their last 10 home games. 0-10 in their last 10 home games. That's one shy of the NFL record set by the 88-89 Cowboys, which was the beginning of a dynasty in Dallas. Maybe we don't realize it, and you're looking at a potential dynasty there in Tennessee. I have my doubts. The Raiders are at the Chiefs. Rashee Rice back from his suspension, 6 games. Ashton Jeanty, 4th in the NFL in rushing. If you look at since week 4, the Raiders 4-0 against the spread when they are a 10-plus point underdog since 2022, and they're a 12.5-point dog at Arrowhead. The Giants are at the Broncos. Denver has a ridiculous pass rush. They lead the NFL in sacks. They've got 30. Second place has 20. They are 10 clear of everyone else in the NFL. They have a pass rush win rate of 46%. And now you look at playing a rookie quarterback. They've done that recently this year. They played against Cam Ward, held him to 112 passing yards, and sacked him 6 times. Could be a rough go for Jackson Dart at Mile High. All right, Tier 2. This is the good stuff. We got 4 games in Tier 2. The Eagles are at the Vikings. The Eagles have lost back-to-back games for the first time since 2023. The Vikings coming off of a bye. And the Vikings also 3-0 against the spread as home dogs over the last 2 years. They are a home dog in this game on Sunday. See if the Eagles can avoid a 3rd straight loss. The Commanders are at the Cowboys, NFC East showdown. Dallas leads the NFL in total offense, and Washington is 26th in the NFL on defense, and Washington's coming off a short week. I don't love this spot for the Commanders going on the road. Hopefully Jaden can put a Superman cape on there in the Lone Star State. Packers are at the Cardinals. Low-key good game here. Jordan Love, 15 games with multiple touchdown passes and no interceptions since 2023. That is tied for the most in the NFL. He's played well The Cardinals have been okay this year, just a game under 500, but they've been a functional team. They're at home. We'll see what they can do in that NFC showdown. The Falcons are at the 49ers. You got Christian McCaffrey. You got Bijan Robinson, the two most productive running backs in the National Football League, squaring off big for fantasy owners in this one. George Kittle back for San Francisco. They're in San Francisco against the Falcons. Let's go to Tier 1. Got two games that are the best two games of the weekend. The Rams are playing the Jags in London, so it's a morning kickoff in Tier 1. That is rare. Considering what we gave Europe last week, they'll take this one for sure. Trevor Lawrence was sacked 6 times against Seattle, and the Rams' defensive line is absolutely loaded. I like the Rams to get after the Jags in this game. I like the Rams to win it as well. And then in Tier 2, the second game, the Colts are at the Chargers. Jim Harbaugh, coaching the Chargers, facing his old team, the Colts. His Chargers, 16-7 against the spread over the last 2 years. That is tied for the Lions for the best in the NFL. And Tyler Warren, off to a really good start there for the Colts. He leads all tight ends in the NFL with 370 receiving yards to this point in the calendar. Had Brock Bowers setting records last year. Tyler Warren trying to do the same this year for the Colts. That's it for your look around the National Football League. I wanted to talk a little bit about LSU secondary play, and I thought this would be a good place to do it right after getting you ready for the NFL slate. I was looking at targets today, and we know that Mansour Delane has played phenomenal football. He's been so good for LSU out at corner, and I wanted to see if teams are shying away from him because it felt that way against Ole Miss, and then you heard on the telecast the broadcast team say, the Ole Miss coaching staff told us that Mansour Delane is as good a corner as they've seen in the country. They're not going to go that way. So I looked it up. Here are Mansour Delane's targets. Times he was thrown at. Against Clemson, 8 times. Against Tech, 4 times. Against Florida, 6 times. So in the first 3 weeks, first 3 games, that's 18 targets. Since then, 3 games, same sample size, 18, 4. 0 against Southeastern, 2 against Ole Miss, 2 against South Carolina. One of them was on the 4th and 4 where he knocked it away. So in the first 3 weeks, 18 targets. Last 3 weeks, 4. What does that mean for P.J. Woodland and DJ Pickett? Well, I'll tell you. Over the last 3 weeks, where Mansour Delane has seen 4 targets, those two guys have combined for 18. 18 to 4, it's been flipped. And we talked to P.J. Woodland about that earlier this week, and he was like open about it. He showed up on campus, P.J. Woodland did, 150 pounds. 150 pounds. And he started the second game of his career a little bit north of that weight. He said 150 something. Started against Nichols in game 2 last year. And so now he's up to 170. His goal is 175. And I thought he's played well. They're going at it. He had a pick in the game against Ole Miss. And I'll tell you this about P.J. Woodland. He's 170 pounds. He's played a lot of his college football around 160, 165 pounds. He's not scared. Like, that's a dude who will get in there. He'll be physical. He'll mix it up. It's hard to do at that weight. But he doesn't shy away from it. Like I think some people might, because you realize that you're in a fight you shouldn't probably be in. And so Pickett and Woodland are going to be major, major keys for LSU moving forward, because when you look at these numbers and you realize that you're talking about 18 targets to 4 against Southeastern, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, that's not something that is a coincidence. That's something that opposing coaching staffs have determined and have put into their game plan. And this is part of being DBU. This is part of having elite players in the secondary. Once you get one and he's playing at that level, it puts pressure on the other guys. And they're going to welcome it. They're both thin, but they're both physical enough. They've both got really good ball skills. We asked Garrett Nussmeier about throwing against those guys in August, and he talked about how PJ's got a great knack of playing the ball, and he's excited to see him move forward. I've got a whole piece up about it at LouisianaSports.net. But I don't know how big a deal it is this week when you talk about a Vanderbilt team that is very, very much ball control and is throwing the ball around the line of scrimmage a lot, and a lot of the things they do are play action and dump offs and screens and half rollouts and short, quick game, and it's more about making sure you tackle guys around the line of scrimmage than actually covering down the field more often than not. But when you play Ty Simpson in Alabama, when you play Taylon Green in Arkansas, when you play those teams, I feel like because they're going to have a heavy passing load built into the game plan and they're going to try to stretch the field. I know Bobby Petrino wants to stretch the field. I know that they want to do that in Tuscaloosa with Ty Simpson. That all of a sudden is going to put a lot of pressure on these young corners that are pretty small. And we're already seeing that. An FCS team, a Lane Kiffin offense that's really diverse and talented, a Mike Shula offense that stinks. You're seeing all different spectrums. FCS overmatched, Lane Kiffin really talented, Mike Shula disaster. All of them have made the decision, find 11, go that way, find 3, go that way. If you see 4, throw it the other way. Except Mike Shula on 4th and 4 with the game in the balance in Tiger Stadium. He throws at 4. He throws an incompletion broken up by the best corner in the country. That's coaching malpractice, but we don't have to get into that anymore. Teams aren't going to do that very much. And so DJ Pickett and PJ Woodland are going to have to be instrumental in what LSU does on defense moving forward. And it may have to start, especially if you get a lead and Vanderbilt's got to throw the ball tomorrow when LSU and Vanderbilt do battle. Speaking of that, let me set you up for the day, and we'll come back and talk a little Saints and Bears. So it's a different schedule for us here at Guarantee for an 11 o'clock kickoff. 7 o'clock, Eagle 98.1 game day right here in this Raising Cane studio. 7 o'clock a.m. Musso, Hanny, getting you ready for 2 hours this time, not 3. So they'll go 7 to 9. I'll take over on the LSU Sports Radio Network pregame show at 9 o'clock. I'll go till about 10:15 or so. Until about 10:45 or so. And that's when we'll throw to the broadcast team. 30 minutes after the game goes final, I'll come on with Brandon and Marlon. We'll talk LSU and Vanderbilt for about an hour. 90 minutes after the game goes final for 3 hours from Rouse's, Burbank, and Lee, Charles Handiger from Richard Dixon on Eagle 98.1 game day. So 7 a.m. here for 2 hours, then me on the network for 90 minutes, me on the network for an hour post-game. 90 minutes after the game goes final from Rouse's, Burbank, and Lee, Hanny and Richard Dixon, Eagle 98.1 postgame, taking your phone calls after LSU and Vanderbilt. So we're on at 7 until probably somewhere about 8 p.m. Tomorrow night for your full Eagle game day coverage. So looking forward to that from Nashville. All right, let's step aside. Come back. I'll pick Saints Bears next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club, swingeasygcbr.com is that website, swingeasygcbr.com. Looking to work on your game? Well, we know that the months that come, it gets dark a little earlier. We know that it gets cold at times. Rain may happen. It's just not conducive to hitting some balls sometimes. Well, that doesn't matter at Swing Easy Golf Club because it's inside. You work on one of their simulators in a private bay. Can be just you working on your game. Can be some friends if you want to tag along. You put it on that driving range setting. You can see your carry distance. You can see your ball speed. You can watch the slow-mo impact camera of your club face hitting the ball. I found that really helpful. I saw that when I was hooking the ball, which you'll see on the simulator, and I do quite frequently, I can see that I was catching the ball on the heel of the club a little bit and smothering it. That was helpful feedback. I could move a little bit further from the ball and try to prevent that. Those are the things you can do to work on your game at Swing Easy Golf Club. If you hate going to the driving range because they got scuffed balls, it costs too much money, and you can't tell because the wind's blowing or there's no grass, Swing Easy Golf Club can help you out if you want to work on your game. Swing Easy GCBR, they are on Segan at Perkins. Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Corks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, wrapping up hour number 1. Lots to do in hour number 2. We'll pick SEC games against the spread coming up in 10 minutes. Saints and Bears from the lakefront in beautiful Chicago, Illinois, coming up on Sunday at noon. I've talked about this game a lot this week. There have been a lot of storylines, kind of dripping with storylines from the rivalry perspective. You've got Dennis Allen facing a team where he was the head coach and then the defensive coordinator previously. You've got Kendre Miller trying to work against him. And then you've got the quarterbacks who went to Oklahoma, and eventually Spencer Rattler was beaten out by Caleb Williams and left, and then Caleb Williams left. But I feel like that probably left a sour taste in Spencer Rattler's mouth when he was moved on from at a spot that was just producing Heisman winners year over year. there are lots of stories like that, but ultimately this is just a football game, and it's a football game between two teams that are searching to take steps. The Bears feel like they're searching to take a couple of steps towards the top of the NFC with a coach they love and a quarterback who's in his second year who's helped them win 3 games in a row. The Saints are trying to climb out of the cellar, and that's what you're getting. I believe the Saints are walking into a very difficult environment on Sunday. The city of Chicago has not had a Bears winner in some time. Since the double doink a few years ago in the playoffs where they had a great defense with a very suspect offense, they've really been searching. And the Saints are searching now for what their identity is going to be as an organization moving forward now that the whole thing has been transformed. I told you on Thursday's show that the Saints simply had to get after what I consider to be a very mediocre Chicago offensive line, specifically at the tackle spots. Chase Young, Carl Granderson, like those guys have got to be impact guys coming off the edge and making Caleb Williams uncomfortable. That's a must for the Saints. They have not been great in coverage. They were not very good in coverage last week. And you've given up multiple touchdown passes in 8 straight games, which is the longest active streak in the NFL. You've got to cover a little bit better. And when you can't cover great, well, go get the passer. And that's what the Saints are going to need to do in this game. Offensively, the Bears are an interesting defensive case because they were atrocious against Detroit in week 2. I'm not trying to compare the Saints to Detroit. You can't. But they were bad against Las Vegas in the next game on the ground, but Caleb Williams got them to the finish line. I think this game, to me, ends up close. I do. The Saints have played close games with everybody except Seattle. And Chicago is close to the middle of the SEC. The SEC, that's quite a slip, of the NFL. They're close to the middle of the NFL. And the Saints have punched against teams in the middle of the NFL, I think. And I think they'll punch on Sunday. Can they make a couple plays down the field? When that big play comes, Chris Olave's got to make it. When that big play comes, Spencer Rattler's got to make that throw. And you're going to have to run the ball a little bit as well. I'm hitting a lot of areas, but the truth of the matter is, and I was asked this question on a New Orleans radio spot earlier this week, and it was a big picture question, and I basically just said, the Saints' margin for error is so small that it's hard to come up with a key to the game because they kind of have to do everything. Because if one of their weaknesses really slips, it's just a nightmare because you don't have a strength to counteract it. So you kind of have to cover all your bases. Like special teams just cratered in Seattle, and they didn't have anything to rectify it with. The offense is not going to go out there and cover for that. The defense is not going to just stymie people. It's not going to happen. So it really comes down to the Saints have to do a lot of everything very well. I'm looking at picks from ESPN, and I'm seeing a 35-27. I'm seeing them 40-17. I'm seeing a 23-20. The number on this game is interesting. The Bears are 4.5-point favorites. Seems like you're looking at a team that's 1-5 against a team that has won 3 games in a row, and you think that maybe in Chicago it should be better. And again, I think it's going to be a hornet's nest for the Saints to go into, but I don't worry about Spencer Rattler handling that. He hasn't been awesome this year, but he certainly hasn't gotten overwhelmed. So I think he'll come in with a good plan. And the Bears still have issues in the front 7 on defense and issues in the front of their offense. And here's what I keep going back to. Chicago just hasn't been able to trust the Bears. And there's got to be a reason for that. Now, maybe Ben Johnson's changing it all. Maybe Caleb Williams is changing it all. But Luke Johnson felt this way when we talked to him yesterday. He'll be up in Chicago covering it, and I kind of agree. This is going to come down to a really close game in the fourth quarter, I think. I think the Saints are in it. And I believe that the city of Chicago is just kind of destined for some heartbreak with this team. It just feels that way. That's the way it's been for years and years and years and years. And I think more of it's coming on Sunday. I'm going to pick the New Orleans Saints to win the game on Sunday by a score of 18-17.
I love this. I didn't think you was going this way. You had me in the first half. You got me in the second half.
I think the Saints get it done by pressuring Caleb Williams. I think they get a couple of turnovers in this game. It's not high-flying. It's sloppy. It's ugly. The Saints kind of drag him down into the mud. Ben Johnson wants to be high-flying. He wants to be all over the place scoring 40 points. That's what he's used to. I don't think that's coming in this game. I think the Saints will have a plan. I think the Bears are coming off a short week. And I like the Saints to get it done in this game on Sunday. Boy, might I look dumb on Monday. But we're going to make that call here on this
You're
Football
not going to look
Friday.
dumb, Hound. We already got 5 losses. You're not going to look dumb. It's just it'll be another one in the books.
Who that's 18-17. Give me the Saints on Sunday.
I love it.
On the lakefront. All right, that's a fast-moving hour, number one. They always are on these Football Fridays. You missed it, you can catch it on demand wherever you find your sound. Just search on Palmer Show. Talked about Vanderbilt in the first segment there, specifically their defense and how LSU may try to attack what Clark Lee's group has in mind. Preston Guy was with us from TigerBait.com at 1:15. You can find those Hunt on LSU, YouTube, wherever you find your sound. We set the table for the NFL slate on Sunday a little earlier in the second hour. Of course, we got Take It or Leave It. That's brought to you by Flight by Yingling. My SEC picks against the spread are coming up after SportsCenter. And I also got to make my LSU Vanderbilt pick coming up 1 hour from right now. So don't go anywhere. It's a Football Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show presented by Corks.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is that website. Captives. Love telling you about captives. If you are a business owner, if you are a CFO, if you are in the risk management department, wherever you may be in your organization, if you're handling insurance costs and you just feel like you're drowning a little bit every time the renewal shows up, have you looked into a captive? Not every broker has the ability to place you in a captive. But the Highland Insurance Group is an independent broker that does handle captives every day. You've got to qualify. Your loss history's got to be good. You've got to have a high premium. You've got to have quality risk management in place. And if you do fit, it can be a game changer for your business's bottom line. It's just a matter of qualifying and making sure your broker can get you in front of it. And that's what the Highland Insurance Group can do. So I invite you to reach out to the Highland Insurance Group. They're here in Baton Rouge. You can find them at HighlandIG.com. Say, hey, I'm looking for a captive. Can you help me out? Jonathan Carbo and his team can do that. It's the Highland Insurance Group. They're online at HighlandIG.com.